And there's about to be a major shift in the UK in how they deal with COVID. All rules will be dropped from Thursday. That means people with COVID will no longer have to isolate. Anyone who tests positive will be advised to stay home for 5 days, but it won't be a legal requirement. PM Boris Johnson's also confirmed there will be no more free mass COVID testing.
We don't need laws to compel people to be considerate to others. We can rely on that sense of responsibility towards one another.
Latika Bourke is the Age and Sydney Morning Herald's UK correspondent and joins us now from London. Latika, what's the local reaction been to this news?
Look, it really depends who you ask. If you watched the Commons statement yesterday when Boris Johnson was making this landmark announcement, his Tory MPs, the backbench, many of whom, by the way, have been trying to roll his prime ministership for the last few months, couldn't have been happier. There were cheers, they were jubilant, and they were really, really pleased to see this announcement come through. Now, if you then go to what some of the medical unions, some of the charities that represent older, sick people and the vulnerable are saying, they're not so pleased. They're really worried that ending free testing in particular will leave people really exposed. And they're also concerned that people will get a message that it's okay to go out and start circulating in the community if you have COVID. And of course, that would then be passed on to those who are most vulnerable, and they're the ones who end up in hospital and possibly dying from the virus.
What provisions are there for older or disabled or immunocompromised people in all of this, Latika?
Well, it's a great question because not even the government here seems to know the answer to that yet. They have said that there will be testing available for the very elderly and for the immunocompromised and for some social care staff. But there's huge gaps. They can't say who will exactly get it and they also can't say how the NHS staff will be treated. So that sets up the possibility that NHS staff themselves could be COVID positive and going into work and possibly giving that virus to people who are already ill with something else. And we know, of course, that they're really vulnerable from this virus. So the government still has to nut out some of these issues. And I think that there will be potentially some change between now and then. Of course, the government wants to bring down the budget of testing. So it does want to wean the community off free tests. And we've had them for about a year now. And they are costing an enormous amount to the budget bottom line. £2 billion a month is spent on testing here in the UK. And the government said yesterday, well, the Prime Minister said that has got to come down. It's something that we can't afford when we now have so many other health concerns here in the UK that were delayed or caused by the lockdowns.
So I can understand they don't want to spend as much on testing, but isn't the worry that if you aren't testing widely, you don't know when things change really dramatically, like a new variant comes along or your situation is actually seriously imperilled?
Yep, that's right. But there is one sort of testing that's going to keep going. And this is what around the world is known as a gold standard COVID surveillance test here in the UK. It's been running pretty much since the start of the pandemic and has been ramped up and down. And it's called the ONS COVID surveillance study. Now, that's the equivalent of the ABS in Australia, the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And what they do is send out random samples to households who get tested every couple of weeks. And then that statistics body comes back and reports, just like it does the flu and other viruses, it will say, well, here's what we think is the prevalence of COVID across society, and more importantly, where. Now, that survey will give the UK the ability to detect the new variants. And then the government has promised that should we ever get to a point where we get, say, a more worrying variant than Omicron, we can stand that testing back up.
Well, we'll watch and wait and see, Latika. Always a pleasure to chat. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.